Boris Johnson resigned as Prime Minister on the 7th of July last year. Over 8 months later, and the scandal that dislodged the man who won his party their largest election victory since Margaret Thatcher is still being litigated in Parliament. The issue being adjudicated by a committee of 7 MPs is not whether Boris Johnson broke the rules or not, but rather whether he recklessly and knowingly misled the House of Commons. Connor Burns, a close ally of Mr Johnson, says he believes that the former Prime Minister will set the record straight.
Well, I think Boris is really looking forward to getting his side out there, getting the factual information that he has at his disposal into the public domain and on the record. All I want for Boris Johnson is what I would want for any other Member of Parliament, in fact, frankly, for any one of my constituents, and that is a transparent and fair process, and crucially, that they separate out the events in Downing Street and Cabinet Office and so on, and what they're actually looking at, which is what he said to Parliament, he knew when he said it to Parliament.
The impartiality of the committee has been called into question.
Harriet Harman did, of course, send a fairly clear tweet in April last year, where she said if the then Prime Minister and the then Chancellor, the now former Prime Minister Boris, the current Prime Minister Rishi, accepted a fixed penalty notice, in her view that would be an admission of guilt and therefore an admission that they had misled Parliament. I struggle to reconcile Harriet's impartiality in this process with that tweet that she sent so definitively in judgment in April last year.
The leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey, however, believes the question of integrity does not lie with the committee, but instead with its subject.
Persons whose integrity is on the line is Boris Johnson's. He's never had any integrity in his whole political career, and his performance as Prime Minister was an embarrassment to the country. I think there's a difference between understanding when there's a party and when there isn't a party. He knows he went to a party. It's pretty clear to anyone that he did mislead Parliament, and he knew he was doing so. Let's see what happens at the hearing. But I think the vast majority of people have moved on from Boris Johnson. I saw a Prime Minister who lacked any integrity and who clearly misled Parliament.
Boris Johnson will be relying on his distinguished legal counsel, Lord Panic KC, and this 55-page dossier of information, which contains newly published WhatsApps and phone records showing that the former Prime Minister had asked his team what happened at events and was assured by them that the rules were followed. But ultimately it will be for the committee to adjudicate after hours of grilling, and then for Parliament to vote on any sanction that may be recommended. Tom Harwood, GB News.